Hello and welcome to this latest Screencastify podcast where I'm going to be looking at suspense accounts. Okay, suspense accounts, what are they, why do we use them, and how do we correct them? Well, suspense accounts. First reason why we have got suspense accounts is it allows us to make a trial balance that doesn't balance. And it can be important for some businesses that we can do that, because if there's a small error, a business might still want to go ahead and create a draft copy of their statements of financial position and their income statement, so that first of all management can start to use the information, the overall information about how much profit they seem to have made, and also to do things like review the assets. And for a large company, because they have to do reports to their shareholders, it also gives them a chance to actually start preparing the information that legally they've got to give the shareholders over and above the overall information on the profit or loss. And another reason why we actually use suspense accounts, and it's one that you don't often see as an answer in an exam, but it's quite a popular one in the real world, is that when somebody's unsure about a transaction that they're doing, they might know where the debit entry goes, for example, so they may have received some money, but they might not be too sure about which account they should correctly credit for that money. And therefore the information would go into a suspense account while the accountant or the bookkeeper making that entry was trying to find out, maybe off one of their senior managers, what exactly should be done with the transaction. Okay, here we've got a simple trial balance, and as we can see, the trial balance doesn't balance. So what we need to do to make it to balance in the short term, we need to put 10,000 onto the debit side. And if we do that, we would call that a suspense account entry, and we'd open the suspense account with £10,000 in it. Now, what could have happened now is somebody could have gone away and made a start on actually preparing the income statement, and another group of accountants on a large audit team would perhaps be sent off now to try and find the error. And because it's a simple error here, I'm going to say that the electricity has been undercast or under-added up by 10,000. So it should have been 17,000, but we've only recorded 7,000. So therefore, what we need to do is we need to debit the electricity account with 10,000. Okay, so that means that the electricity now is 17,000 because we've increased it. Okay, but at the moment, we've still got the suspense account open. So what we also need to do is we need to put in a credit entry in the suspense account. Okay, and that's going to be offset against the electricity. So now there's no closing balance at all on the suspense account because both sides equal 10,000. Oops, something's gone wrong there. Okay, and what we can now do is we can make this entry a 0. And what I would always do if I was doing anything to do with errors, you can try and do it in your head, but you're far better off writing a note down like I did here of the journal entries to show you what you need to do, because we're going to show you in the next set of questions. Quite often they will give you some errors that actually don't affect the suspense account when they're giving you an exam question. So what I suggest you do now is you pause this video, and I've got a simple suspense account question here with 2 errors in that you need to have a go at doing, and then come back to the video as soon as you've done that question. Right, welcome back. I'm going to look at a more realistic scenario now for an exam question. And in this exam question, a trial balance has been made, a suspense account has been opened, and some errors were found. And what you're also told as part of the question, if you look down here, is that you need to complete the suspense account and clearly show the opening balance. What they do quite often in exam questions, they won't tell you what the opening balance was on the suspense account, because if they do, what you can do is you can fiddle around with the numbers until you actually get the suspense account to balance. So it's to stop you from sort of cheating and just doing a trial and error. Right, the first one is a cash sale of $2,000 were correctly entered in the cash book, but no entry in the general ledger. So there was no entry in the sales account. So the sales account needs to be increased, and to do that, we would credit sales. Okay, and because the debit entry was correctly done in the cash book, what we need to do is to debit the suspense account. That's the other entry. So hopefully what you will see here is that I've put a debit entry in the suspense account for 2,000. Okay, the next one was a credit sale of 1,000 to somebody called Alias, was debited to Ias's account in error. So this one isn't going to affect the suspense account because we needed to debit Alias's account because he's now an asset and owes us some money. And because we've made an error and put this debit entry into Ias's account, we need to credit Ias's account to remove that $1,000 that we've said he owes us that he doesn't really owe us. Okay, so that one's going to have no impact whatsoever on the suspense account. Next one, I've got a cash discount of $450. We had it credited to the discount received account in error. Well, the first one, that's pretty straightforward. We should never have credited discounts received in the first place. So to take that out, we're going to put a debit entry into discounts received to cancel out the error. And what we should have done, we should actually have credited the discount allowed account because that's an expense, and therefore there should have been a debit entry in there. Now, both those entries are on the debit side, and therefore the suspense account error is going to have to go on the credit side. So let's see that. Okay, and if we look in here at the suspense account, I've hopefully correctly put the entry in, and then we've got one final error. I've got a sales return of $500 was debited to purchases in error. Well, if we've debited purchase in error, we obviously need to credit purchases. So we'll do that. Okay. And what we should have done, sales returns, well, we're gaining goods. So that's increasing in assets. So that's a debit entry. So I'm going to put a debit entry in sales returns. And if we can look there, when I've done both my journal entries, there's nothing affecting the suspense account. So I don't need to worry about the suspense account for this one at all. And therefore, okay, both sides should equal $2,000. So my opening balance on my suspense account must have been $1,100. So that would have been the error on my trial balance. The trial balance, the debit side, would have been $1,100, bigger than the credit side. All right, just to recap then of the things that you should be doing really when you're doing one of these questions. Always think about what your journal entries are going to be. Even if the question doesn't ask for them, jot them down as your notes. And that way you'll be far more likely to make sure that you get the answer correct. And sadly, it's something as well that you need to practice and learn to think your way through. There are so many different scenarios they can give you in an examination that I couldn't give you the answers to all of them. And also, they could always change the numbers anyway. So you just need to look at the question, think your way through the journal entries, and hopefully you should get a very, very strong result on these questions. All right, you've got another question to have a go at down here. Okay, there's 4 problems in there. You've got the suspense account to update, and good luck with that. And I will obviously speak to you soon. Goodbye.